Good morning. So today we are going to learn about the middle cranial fossa. The interior of the cranial cavity is divided into an anterior cranial fossa, then you have the middle cranial fossa, and then you have the posterior cranial fossa. These are in a step-like pattern. So anteriorly you have the anterior cranial fossa, and below and behind that you have the middle cranial fossa, and below and behind that you have the posterior cranial fossa. Now let us look at the boundaries of the middle cranial fossa. So it is bounded anteriorly by the sharp posterior margin of the lesser wing of sphenoid. So this is the lesser wing of sphenoid, and by this plate of bone which is called the jugum sphenoidale. So these are the anterior boundary of the middle cranial fossa. Now posteriorly it is bounded by this sharp margin of bone, that is the superior border of the petrous part of temporal bone on either side, and by this plate of bone that is called the dorsum sella. So posteriorly it is separated from the posterior cranial fossa by the sharp superior border of petrous part of temporal bone and the dorsum sella. Now we will learn the middle cranial fossa under the following headings. That is, we learn the median part of the middle cranial fossa, and we learn the expanded lateral part. Together, middle cranial fossa appears like a butterfly. So we look at the median part. It is formed by the body of sphenoid. So this belongs to the body of sphenoid, and from before backwards the parts are, this groove-like structure is known as sulcus chiasmaticus. This groove is known as sulcus chiasmaticus, and above the sulcus chiasmaticus the optic chiasma is C. It is not exactly lodging the optic chiasma, but the optic chiasma is related above the sulcus chiasmaticus, and the sulcus chiasmaticus on both the sides lead into a canal. You can see it is leading into a canal, and that canal is known as the optic canal. This is the optic canal. The optic nerve and the ophthalmic artery is going to pass through the optic canal. So we have the sulcus chiasmaticus. Then we have this depression in the body of sphenoid, and that depression is called the hypophyseal fossa,
which lodges the pituitary gland.
And behind the hypophyseal fossa, this upward projection, which is a plate of bone, is known as the dorsum sella. This is the dorsum sella. This is the sulcus chiasmaticus. Behind the sulcus chiasmaticus, there is a sharp border. This is the sharp border, posterior border of sulcus chiasmaticus, and that is called tuberculum sella. That is called tuberculum sella. So the tuberculum sella, the hypophyseal fossa, and the dorsum sella together are called the sella turcica. The tuberculum sella, the hypophyseal fossa, and the dorsum sella are together called the sella turcica, which is like a Turkish saddle. Now, so we know that the anterior margin of the middle cranial fossa is marked by the posterior border of the lesser wing of sphenoid. And the lesser wing of sphenoid, when it is traced medially, you get this process which is known as the anterior clinoid process. So this is called the anterior clinoid process. And this is the tuberculum sella. And on either side of the tuberculum sella, which is not clear in this bone, you get the middle clinoid process. So this is the anterior clinoid process, and this is the middle clinoid process. Now there is a ligament connecting the anterior clinoid process to the middle clinoid process, and that is known as the carotidoclinoid ligament. This ligament converts this area into a foramen, and it is through this foramen that the internal carotid artery will be turned upwards to supply the cerebrum, the base of the cerebrum. So you have the internal carotid artery lying on either side of the body of sphenoid, and it will pass through this foramen, the carotidoclinoid foramen, and it will be turned upwards to supply the brain. So this carotidoclinoid ligament is attached to the anterior clinoid process and the middle clinoid process. The middle clinoid process is seen on either side of this sharp margin, which is called tuberculum sella. So similarly, you have one more clinoid process. Here you have the dorsum sella, and the dorsum sella has got on the lateral edges pair of process which is known as the posterior clinoid process. So this is the posterior clinoid process. So here you have the anterior clinoid process, the medial ends of the lesser wing of sphenoid. Then on either side of the tuberculum sella you have the middle clinoid process, and on either side of the dorsum sella you have the posterior clinoid process. And to the posterior clinoid process, you have the attached margin of tendorium cerebelli attached. So tendorium cerebelli is a dural fold. It is seen over here, and it forms a tent, it forms a covering for the cerebellum. So in the posterior cranial fossa, you have the cerebellar hemispheres located, and above this you get the occipital lobes of the cerebrum. So separating the occipital lobes and the cerebellar hemispheres, you have a dural fold which is called the tendorium cerebelli. It is forming a tent for the cerebellum. So it has got an attached margin and a free margin. The attached margin is attached to the superior border of the petrous part of temporal bone and to the posterior clinoid process. And there is a free margin which extends forwards and it is attached to the anterior clinoid process. This can be explained better with the help of a diagram. So this is a diagram showing the tendorium cerebelli. So this is the lesser wing of sphenoid of both the sides, and medially it ends in a process, and this process is known as the anterior clinoid process. So this is the anterior clinoid process, and similarly there is the dorsum sella. Okay, on the posterior aspect of the body of sphenoid there is a upward projection which is known as the dorsum sella, and laterally it is going to project to form a process, and that is the posterior clinoid process. So this is the posterior clinoid process and this is the anterior clinoid process. Now these are the margins of the tendorium cerebelli. Okay, so this is the attached margin of tendorium cerebelli. What is marked in violet color is the attached margin of tendorium cerebelli. So it is attached to the superior border of the petrous part of temporal bone, and it is attached the posterior clinoid process. So the attached margin of tendorium cerebelli is attached to the posterior clinoid process. Now the free margin will show in another color, that is this dark blue color. So this is the free margin of tendorium cerebelli. It's forming a U-shaped notch which is known as a tendorial notch. Okay, and it is extending anteriorly. Okay, and the free margin is getting attached to the anterior clinoid process. So the attached margin of tendorium cerebelli is getting attached to the posterior clinoid process, and the free margin is attached to the anterior clinoid process. On either side of the body of sphenoid, there is a groove. This groove is like an italic F shape, and that groove is called the carotid groove because the internal carotid artery is going to be lodged here. The internal carotid artery, you learned in Norma Basalis. This is the carotid canal, and through the carotid canal, the internal carotid artery is going to enter into the cranial cavity, and then it is going to emerge out through the apex of petrous part of temporal bone. It is going to enter into the cranial cavity, and it is going to be lodged in this groove. This groove is known as the carotid groove, and then, like we said before, it is going to pass through this carotidoclinoid foramen, and then it is going to be turned upwards to supply the cerebrum. So this, on either side of the body you get the carotid groove which lodges the internal carotid artery. So this is the median part of middle cranial fossa. Now we'll look at the expanded lateral part of the middle cranial fossa. So the expanded part is mainly formed by the greater wing of sphenoid. So this is the greater wing of sphenoid. Then laterally you get the squamous part of temporal bone, and posteriorly you get the anterior surface of petrous part of temporal bone. So you get the greater wing of sphenoid, then you get the squamous part of temporal bone and the anterior surface of petrous part of temporal bone. The posterior surface of petrous part of temporal bone belongs to the posterior cranial fossa. Up to here only you get the middle cranial fossa. So in the lateral part, firstly we can see oblique fissure, a very long oblique fissure, which is known as the
superior orbital fissure.
On both the sides you can see
This superior orbital fissure
is bounded medially by the body of sphenoid, above by the lesser wing of sphenoid, and below by the greater wing of sphenoid. So the three parts of sphenoid is going to form this
superior orbital fissure.
This is the body of sphenoid medially, then above you have the lesser wing of sphenoid, and below you have the greater wing of sphenoid. It is not a foramen, it's a long fissure.
And the superior orbital fissure opens to the orbit. So you can see it's opening to the orbit. So through the superior orbital fissure,
the middle cranial fossa communicates with the orbit. If you look through the orbit,
this is the superior orbital fissure,
and in the middle of the fissure there is a tendinous ring that is attached. There is a common tendinous ring of Zinn that is attached to
dividing the superior orbital fissure into three parts:
a medial part, an intermediate part, and a lateral part. So there are various structures various nerves and vessels that is passing from the middle cranial fossa. It is passing through the fissure to reach the orbit. And the structures that are passing through the three parts, that is the medial part, intermediate part and lateral part, can be explained better with the help of a diagram.
This is the trigeminal nerve that emerges from the pons, okay, and this is the trigeminal ganglion. Okay, so this is the trigeminal ganglion, and it is located in front of the anterior surface of the Peters part of temporal bone. From the trigeminal ganglion arises three nerves, that is the phi 1, phi 2 and phi 3. That is the ophthalmic division of the trigeminal nerve. So this is the ophthalmic division of trigeminal nerve. Then you have the maxillary division of trigeminal nerve, and you have the mandibular division of trigeminal nerve. The ophthalmic division is further going to divide into three nerves, that is the frontal nerve, the lacrimal nerve and the nasociliary nerve. So you have the frontal nerve, lacrimal nerve and nasociliary nerve. These three nerves are going to pass through the superior orbital fissure to the orbit. So it is going to go to the orbit. And the maxillary division of trigeminal nerve is going to pass through the foramen rotundum. It is going to go to the pterygopalatine fossa. So this is the pterygopalatine fossa. And the mandibular division of trigeminal nerve along with the motor root. This yellow color structure is the sensor root of trigeminal nerve, and this red color structure is the motor root. So along with the motor root, the mandibular division of trigeminal nerve, these two are going to pass through foramen ovale, okay, into the infratemporal fossa. So it is going to go to the infratemporal fossa. You have the trigeminal nerve, and the trigeminal nerve is going to divide into three divisions, that is the ophthalmic division, maxillary division and mandibular division. And from the ophthalmic division you have three branches, that is the frontal nerve, lacrimal nerve and the nasociliary nerve, which are all passing through the superior orbital fissure to the orbit. Then the maxillary division is passing through the foramen rotundum, and for mandibular division is passing through the foramen ovale. So this is the superior orbital fissure. This is the medial aspect, this is the lateral aspect. So here you will get the body of sphenoid. Here above you will get the lesser wing of sphenoid, and below you will get the greater wing of sphenoid. So these are the boundaries of the superior orbital fissure. And close to the superior orbital fissure you have the optic canal. Okay, so both the optic canal and the superior orbital fissure are leading from the middle cranial fossa to the orbit. Okay, and the superior orbital fissure is divided by a common tendinous ring. It is divided by a common tendinous ring into three parts. So this common tendinous ring is known as the common tendinous ring of Zinn, and it divides the superior orbital fissure into three parts. So this is the medial part. Okay, this is the medial part. This is the intermediate part. This is the intermediate part, and this is the lateral part. Okay, and now we have certain nerves and vessels that are passing through the superior orbital fissure to reach the orbit. You have the three branches of ophthalmic division. So you have the frontal nerve, lacrimal nerve and nasociliary nerve. Then you have 3, 4, 6 cranial nerves. 3, 4, 6 cranial nerves because they are going to supply the extraocular muscles. So third cranial nerve, the oculomotor nerve, the trochlear nerve and the abducens nerve are passing through the different parts of the superior orbital fissure into the orbit. So for learning the structures that are passing through each compartment, we have a code, that is LFT on a I. Okay, so LFT is going to pass through the lateral part, ONA is going to pass through the intermediate part, and I is going to pass through the medial part. Now we'll see what are these. Okay, LFT, ONA, I. So through the lateral part we have LFT. So you have the lacrimal nerve. Okay, so this is L, lacrimal nerve. Then you have the frontal nerve. Okay, that is F, and then you have the T. T is the trochlear nerve. So it is the trochlear nerve. So you have the LFT, and that is passing through the lateral compartment of the superior orbital fissure. Then you have the intermediate compartment. In the intermediate compartment, you have ONA, that is ONNA. So that is O is oculomotor nerve. Okay. The oculomotor nerve is going to divide into two divisions, superior and inferior division. So you have the superior and the inferior division of oculomotor nerve. So that is 3. Okay, and then you have the N is nasociliary nerve. So between the superior and inferior division you have the nasociliary nerve, and you also have the abducens nerve. So this is N and this is A. Okay, abducens nerve is the 6th cranial nerve. Through the medial compartment you have the inferior ophthalmic vein. Okay, so if the inferior ophthalmic vein is passing through the medial compartment, superior ophthalmic vein is passing through the lateral compartment. And in the lateral compartment there is one artery. You can remember an additional artery, that is the recurrent meningeal branch of lacrimal artery. This is the recurrent meningeal branch of lacrimal artery. Through the medial compartment you have the inferior ophthalmic vein, and through the lateral compartment you have the superior ophthalmic vein. Through the lateral compartment you have the three nerves. That you have the lacrimal nerve, frontal nerve and trochlear nerve, and the recurrent meningeal branch of lacrimal artery and the superior ophthalmic vein. Through the intermediate compartment you have the two divisions of the oculomotor nerve, the nasociliary nerve and the abducens nerve, and through the medial compartment you have only one structure, that is the inferior ophthalmic vein. So these are the structures that are passing through the different compartments of the superior orbital fissure. Now what is passing through the optic canal that we have already studied? This is the thick optic nerve. Okay, so this is the optic nerve that is passing. It is actually passing from the orbit to the into the middle cranial fossa, and you have an accompanying artery, and that artery is the ophthalmic artery. So this is the ophthalmic artery, and this is the optic nerve.
Now there are three foramen. You can see here 1, 2, 3. In a crescent shape it is arranged. Three foramina are arranged from before backwards. Okay, 1, 2, 3. These foramina are R, O and S. Okay, according to the names, there is foramen rotundum R, foramen ovale O, and foramen spinosum, that is S. R, O, S, ROS. So the three foramina are foramen rotundum, foramen ovale and foramen spinosum. That is seen in the greater wing of sphenoid. But you can appreciate the three foramina. The foramen rotundum is not opening to the norma basalis, whereas foramen ovale and foramen spinosum are opening in the norma basalis. You studied about foramen ovale and foramen spinosum in norma basalis. So through the foramen ovale and foramen spinosum, the middle cranial fossa is going to communicate with the infratemporal fossa. It is going to communicate with the infratemporal fossa. Whereas through foramen rotundum, the foramen rotundum is opening into a fossa which is called the pterygopalatine fossa. This pterygopalatine fossa is actually a deep-seated fossa. So if you look through this fissure, this is the maxilla and this is the lateral plate of pterygoid. So this fissure is called the pterygomaxillary fissure. Okay, so this is the pterygomaxillary fissure, and if you look through this fissure, on the inside it is leading into a deep-seated fossa which is called the pterygopalatine fossa. So through foramen rotundum, the middle cranial fossa will communicate with the pterygopalatine fossa. So we have four openings leading to different regions. Through the superior oblique fissure, the middle cranial fossa is communicating with the orbit. Through the foramen ovale and foramen spinosum, it is communicating with the infratemporal fossa. And through foramen rotundum, it is communicating with the pterygopalatine fossa. So this is the foramen rotundum. Okay, and through foramen rotundum, the structures passing are the maxillary nerve and the emissary vein. Maxillary nerve and emissary vein. And through the foramen ovale, this large oval foramen is known as foramen ovale. Through this foramen, four structures are passing, and they can be remembered with the mnemonic M-A-L-E, male. M-A-L-E. So you have studied this in norma basalis also. M stands for mandibular nerve. So mandibular nerve is going to pass through foramen ovale. Then A stands for accessory meningeal artery, that is also passing through the foramen ovale. Then you have the L stands for lesser petrosal nerve, and E stands for emissary vein. So these are the four structures that is passing through the foramen ovale. Okay, and then through foramen spinosum, so you get 3M. 3M is passing through foramen spinosum. That is the middle meningeal artery, the middle meningeal vein, and the meningeal branch of mandibular nerve. 3M is passing through the foramen spinosum, and the meningeal branch of mandibular nerve is known as nervus spinosus. The meningeal branch of mandibular nerve is called nervus spinosus. So here you should remember, here you have a depression that is to accommodate the trigeminal ganglion. Okay, so this is to accommodate the trigeminal ganglion, and from the trigeminal ganglion there are three branches. There is ophthalmic division, maxillary division and mandibular division. Ophthalmic division is going to pass through the superior orbital fissure to reach the orbit. Ophthalmic is going to go to the orbit. The maxillary division is going to pass through foramen rotundum, and the mandibular division is going to pass through foramen ovale. So these are the structures passing through all these foramina. This is very important. It is often asked for viva. So these are the foramina that is located in the greater wing of sphenoid. Now let us look at the features in the squamous part of temporal bone, and the lateral aspect of the middle cranial fossa. So the middle meningeal vessels, after they enter through the foramen spinosum, it is going to groove along the lateral part of the greater wing and the parietal bone. In this side you can see there are two grooves. Okay, so the middle meningeal artery, after entering through the foramen spinosum, it is going to divide into an anterior division and a posterior division. Anterior division is going to pass along the greater wing of sphenoid. It is related to pterion. You have learned about pterion, the H-shaped suture on the lateral aspect. It is related to pterion. Pterion is a weak part of the skull which can easily be fractured, and if there is a blow to the skull in this region, the anterior division of middle meningeal artery will be ruptured, resulting in extradural hemorrhage. So this is the anterior division of the middle meningeal artery related to the pterion on the inside. Okay, so there can be rupture of the anterior division of middle meningeal artery leading to extradural hemorrhage. This is very important. And the posterior division is related posteriorly. This is the anterior division related to pterion, and this is the posterior division of middle meningeal vessels. Next, we learn about the features along the anterior surface of the petrous part of temporal bone. So from medial to lateral, just close to the apex of petrous part of temporal bone, you get an impression. Okay, there is a depression that is created by the trigeminal ganglion. Okay, the trigeminal ganglion is located here in a dural pouch which is known as Meckel's cave or cavum trigeminale. So this is the impression for the trigeminal ganglion. Then behind and lateral to it, this elevation can be seen. This elevation is known as arcuate eminence. All this you have studied when you learned about the temporal bone also. So this is the arcuate eminence, and this eminence is created by the superior semicircular canal of the inner ear. You know, there are three semicircular canals for inner ear. There is a superior, lateral and posterior. So the superior semicircular canal is going to create this impression along the anterior surface of the petrous part of temporal bone. So this is the arcuate eminence. And behind and lateral to it, there is a thin plate of bone known as the tegmen tympani. This is known as the tegmen tympani. So this tegmen tympani is going to form the roof for many structures. Okay, from behind forwards, it is going to form the roof for the mastoid antrum. So you know, along the mastoid part of temporal bone, there are many mastoid air cells, and the largest such air cell is known as mastoid antrum. So it is going to form a roof for the mastoid antrum. Then further anteriorly, you have the middle ear cavity, and so you have the canal for the tensor tympani muscle. So these three structures, the mastoid antrum, the middle ear cavity and the canal for tensor tympani, this thin plate of bone that is called tegmen tympani forms the roof for all these three structures. So these are the features along the anterior surface of the petrous part of temporal bone. Now at the junction of the apex of the petrous part of temporal bone and the body of sphenoid, there is a lacerated foramen. You can see here, okay, just medial to the body of sphenoid. Between the petrous part of temporal bone and the body, there is a lacerated foramen with the lacerated edges. So this foramen is known as foramen lacerum. Okay, so the other foramens that we saw, that is foramen rotundum, foramen ovale and foramen spinosum, all these were foramens in the greater wing of sphenoid. But here, this foramen lacerum, is seen only in articulated skull. Only when you articulate the petrous part of temporal bone with the body of sphenoid, you get this foramen, that is the foramen lacerum. You have learned the foramen lacerum in the norma basalis as well. So this is the foramen lacerum in the norma when you look from below. This is the petrous part of temporal bone and this is the body of sphenoid. So this is the foramen lacerum, lacerated foramen. And this foramen is closed in the living state by a plate of cartilage. Okay, so in the living state, it is closed by a plate of cartilage. So there are no through and through structures through the foramen lacerum. Unlike other foramina where you have structures passing into the cranial cavity or emerging out of the cranial cavity, foramen lacerum, because it is closed by a plate of cartilage, there are no through and through structures through the foramen lacerum. But along the posterior wall of foramen lacerum, that is emerging from the apex of petrous part of temporal bone, you get the internal carotid artery. Okay, so internal carotid artery, like I said before, it is going to enter through the carotid canal. Then it passes through the bone, through the petrous part of temporal bone. It is going to pass to reach the apex of the petrous part of temporal bone, and then it passes along the carotid groove on either side of the body. So it is not a content of foramen lacerum, but it is located in the posterior wall of foramen lacerum. Similarly, in the anterior wall of foramen lacerum, there is a canal, okay, which is called the pterygoid canal, and this pterygoid canal will lead into the pterygopalatine fossa. Along the posterior wall you have the internal carotid artery, and along the anterior wall you have the pterygoid canal. So through this pterygoid canal, what is passing? So for that you should know there are two grooves here. Close to the anterior surface of the petrous part of temporal bone, there are two grooves here. This groove is the groove for greater petrosal nerve, and this groove is the groove for lesser petrosal nerve. Greater petrosal nerve is branch of facial nerve. It is going to pierce the roof of the middle cavity. It is going to pass along this groove, and then, so this is the groove for greater petrosal nerve, and then along the anterior wall of the foramen lacerum you have the pterygoid canal. So it is going to pass through the pterygoid canal and reach the pterygopalatine fossa. So that is the greater petrosal nerve. Similarly, you have the lesser petrosal nerve also going to pass through this groove, and it is going to pass through the foramen ovale to the infratemporal fossa. So lesser petrosal nerve is passing to the foramen ovale, and greater petrosal nerve is passing to the anterior wall of foramen lacerum. So there are no through and through structures through foramen lacerum. In the posterior wall you get the internal carotid artery, and in the anterior wall you get the pterygoid canal through which the greater petrosal nerve will pass. If at all there is any through and through structure that is passing through foramen lacerum, that will be an emissary vein.
This is a diagram showing the relations of the pterygopalatine ganglion. So this is the pterygopalatine ganglion that is located in the pterygopalatine fossa. This is the facial nerve. Okay, so this is the facial nerve, and from the facial nerve you get the greater petrosal nerve. So this is the greater petrosal nerve, and we saw that it is going to pierce the roof of the middle ear cavity and pass along the groove for the greater petrosal nerve, and it is going to pass into the pterygoid canal. So this pterygoid canal is located in the anterior wall of foramen lacerum, but here it is joined by another nerve. This greater petrosal nerve is joined by another nerve, that is the deep petrosal nerve. So this is the deep petrosal nerve. What is this deep petrosal nerve? It is actually the sympathetic plexus around the internal carotid artery. So the sympathetic plexus around the internal carotid artery is going to form the deep petrosal nerve. So the greater petrosal nerve and the deep petrosal nerve join together to form one nerve. So this is the nerve that is formed by the union of the greater petrosal nerve and the deep petrosal nerve within the pterygoid canal, and that nerve is known as the nerve of pterygoid canal or the Vidian's nerve. That is known as the nerve of pterygoid canal or the Vidian's nerve, and that is going to pass along the pterygoid canal into the pterygopalatine fossa to relay in the pterygopalatine ganglion.
Look at all the foramina that we learned today. This is the optic canal, and through the optic canal we have the optic nerve, the second cranial nerve, and the ophthalmic artery. These two structures are passing through the optic canal into the orbit. Then you have the superior orbital fissure. Structures are passing from the middle cranial fossa to the orbit, and through this the three branches of ophthalmic nerve and vessels are passing into the orbit. Then you have the foramen rotundum. Through the foramen rotundum, the middle cranial fossa is communicating with the pterygopalatine fossa, and through this passes the maxillary nerve and the emissary vein. Then you have the foramen ovale. It's a large foramen, and through this foramen, four structures are passing. That is the mandibular nerve, axillary meningeal artery, the lesser petrosal nerve, and the emissary vein is passing. And then you have the foramen spinosum. Through the foramen spinosum, the middle meningeal artery, middle meningeal vein, and the meningeal branch of mandibular nerve, that is the nervus spinosus, is passing through the foramen spinosum. Foramen lacerum is located between the apex of petrous part of temporal bone and the body of sphenoid. It is closed by a plate of cartilage, but along the posterior wall there is the internal carotid artery, and along the anterior wall there is the pterygoid canal through which the greater petrosal nerve will pass. So this is a specimen to show all the 12 cranial nerves are passing through which all foramina. You will understand this better once you learn all the 3 cranial fossa. So you learned in the anterior cranial fossa, the cribriform plate has got many openings, and through these openings you get the rootlets of the olfactory nerve. This is the olfactory nerve rootlets that is passing through the cribriform plate from the nasal cavity to the anterior cranial fossa. Then you have the second cranial nerve is passing through the optic canal. So this is the optic canal, this is the optic nerve, along with the ophthalmic artery, which is a branch of internal carotid artery. So this is the second cranial nerve is passing through the optic canal. Then the third cranial nerve is oculomotor nerve. The fourth cranial nerve is trochlear nerve, and the first part of fifth cranial nerve, that is the ophthalmic division of trigeminal nerve. Oculomotor nerve, trochlear nerve, and the ophthalmic division of trigeminal nerve is going to pass through the superior orbital fissure into the orbit. Fifth tube, that is the maxillary division, is going to pass through foramen rotundum into the pterygopalatine fossa. And the mandibular division, 5-3 is mandibular division. Mandibular division is going to pass through foramen ovale into the infratemporal fossa. Sixth cranial nerve is the abducen nerve. The abducen nerve is also going to enter into the orbit. It is also going to supply the extraocular muscles. So that is also going to enter through the superior oblique fissure to reach the orbit. Then you have the 7th and 8th cranial nerves that is going to pass through the internal acoustic meatus along the posterior wall of the Peters part of temporal bone, this foramina. Okay, that is the internal acoustic meatus. Through this, it is going to enter into the Peters part of temporal bone, the 7th and 8th cranial nerve. Then you have the jugular foramen that is seen between the Peters part of temporal bone and the occipital bone. You get this foramen, large foramen, that is the jugular foramen, and through this jugular foramen you get 9, 10 and 11 cranial nerves are passing, and along the medial aspect of the foramen magnum you get this foramen. This foramen is known as the hypoglossal canal, and through the hypoglossal canal the 12th cranial nerve is passing. So all the 12 cranial nerves are passing through various foramina.